where you can listen, you can participate, and of course you can do any type of chat box. I'd love some chat box discussion if that's possible. I'm going to be asking some questions, and just to kind of bring the room together, it would be great if you could just respond via chat if you didn't feel comfortable coming off of your mute. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and welcome today. This is the one where we really talk. And my name is Nancy Rosenbaum, and I am on loan with Visit Alexandria, which is a city outside of Washington, D.C. in Virginia. And I say that I am on loan because, like many of our friends in the industry, I was furloughed back in, I guess, July, late July, and I was immediately picked up with Visit Alexandria to do some contract work. So I had already been one of their ambassadors, and I had always been one of their people working and promoting the city because I live here. And they just happened to have somebody who needed to step out for a few months, and so that is why I'm on loan. Full intention to go back to my main company, and but for now, I have a home, and I'm very, very happy to be part of their community. So this is just who I am, and I just wanted to walk you through a little bit about me and a brief history. So I'm going to click on over. So one of the fun things I like to share about myself is my very first job ever was at Dunkin' Donuts. And I don't know why this lends any credibility, except that I have had a lifelong passion for donuts. And I don't know why, but I started at 15 years old in Philadelphia, working at this little dinky Dunkin' Donuts off on the King of Prussia Highway, if you're any of you familiar. And that was the uniform I wore. I actually found it online. And that is the legit uniform that we had to wear, and it was horrible. So I wore that. I would come home smelling like donuts. And if we are old enough, or you remember the nostalgic commercial, Time to Make the Donuts, we literally did make the donuts every 12 hours. It was for real. They were always fresh, and I ate a lot of donuts. So now I've fortunately not been eating so many donuts these days, but of course I've moved on to bigger and better things. And this is just a little background of what I have, where I've worked. I've worked for many different hotel chains, and I worked for Cvent. And then I did a whole 10-year stint with 3 different cities, and you'll see them on their Palm Springs, California, and Visit Pittsburgh, and Visit Houston. So I have a little bit of a different background, and then launching into Merritt's Global Events for the last 10 years. So, and thank you for joining us if you're just coming on. But this is my background, and this is where my passion is. I've worked in hospitality, city planning, and meeting planning for my entire, I want to say, almost 30 years now. Yes, it's almost 30 years that I have worked in this industry, and every job you can imagine. Front desk clerk, my last post was vice president. So I've gone the gamut of all different wonderful events. So today, I think one of the things that I do very well is communicate. And I think this has helped me in a lot of different ways. It's helped me professionally, it has helped me personally, and it has just been a passion of mine. It was my major in college, and I love to write, I love to share, but I'm also a good listener, which is part of our communication, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more. So today's session is the one where we really talk. And what is so important today is, while we are doing all of these Zoom calls, while we are in this completely crazy environment trying to adjust, I wanted to take a minute and just focus on workplace conversation, because this is where we are spending a great deal of our time. And so much has changed. We used to rely on seeing people, and we used to rely on just absolutely hearing from the person down the hall, or maybe some inter-office gossip, anything, but you're not going to get any of that anymore. So today you're going to have to start to really rely on more intuitive tools that are going to help you be a very good communicator, not just, of course, in the workplace, but at home. But let's focus on the workplace for just a brief minute. So that's my intro. Now, this is kind of how I see my workplace. Now, you have several different types of people in the workplace. And I am the happy smiley face, by the way, on that screen. But there are so many others that are on the other side of the screen, and they are your worst nightmare. Some people are very difficult. I don't know why. Maybe they've had a bad day. Maybe things aren't going well in their life. But people carry a lot of baggage into the workplace, and they carry personal problems, they're carrying personal agendas, and a lot of that is reflective on the person. Obviously, this is something that has nothing to do with you sometimes. And then you've got the flip side, which is the more Nancy side, that checks that at the door, goes into the workplace with a smile, and tries to bring some positivity into the workplace. I feel like it is important that we stay on the happy side, because this way your communication is a lot cleaner. If you stay on the other side and you are the worst nightmare, you're projecting so much out to the world. And a lot of times your message gets all garbled because you're carrying this baggage. So my recommendation obviously is, if you have problems, it's okay to take a mental health day. It's okay to step out and cry if you need to, or call the person you need to talk to, or resolve something with the school, or whatever you need to do. You're allowed to do that. And putting you in a happier place absolutely allows you to be presented as a much better, happier person. So let's move on to the next screen. So this is just my little cringy, all of these words are things I hate. I know I just said I'm the happy person, but I really can't stand these words. The one that we hear every single day is "you're on mute." Of course, you're going to hear that 5 times a day. I'm always on mute. I'm always one of those. But the slang that we have is just a little boring. And things like "I'll circle back with you," or "he's really laser focused on that," or "she's such a rock star." We kind of fall into these catchphrases. And the catchphrases are there, I get it. And sometimes they're purposely placed in the right spot and they work. But after you start hearing "she's a rock star," after you start hearing the same words again and again, you just tend to tune out. Your audience will tune out if you fall back on some of these very typical sayings. But this is kind of my word cloud of things I can't stand, and they come at me. And as soon as I hear some of these words, I get kind of like, ooh, I don't know, but, who am I talking to? What are you really saying to me? So I find it very important that we step out of the cloud, we step out of the very typical conversations, and try to have a little bit more authenticity. So with that, let's move on, and we're going to talk about that in 1 second. But add into the noise of the cloud, of the angry person, add in this. This is drama. You've got, I don't know if you guys remember the BBC News guy whose toddlers came into the room last year, and the wife was trying to pull out. Well, this woman, Katie, she obviously thought that was funny. She put that Zoom background, and then you've got the little meme on the other side. But this is the world we're living in, and it's very difficult. So not only are you dealing with, again, what the last speaker talked about, just all of these little nuances of Zoom, your style of communication, who you are, this is all going to be representative. I know a lot of people look at backgrounds, and I don't know, I have a Virgin Mary statue back there. I have a painting, some books, and it's all me, but I know that this is part of my communication style. So one of the things, my takeaways from the last Zoom, is to kind of step that up a little bit. But with that, again, there's so many factors going into it. And so we can't be too hard on ourselves right now, because there are seriously some serious things going on into our world. So let me go back to authenticity. So it's also important to know that when you're being authentic, when you're having authentic conversation with somebody, and I mean the real conversations, not just those word clouds, not just that transactional conversation. Trying to get behind a transactional conversation is really where you're going to hit your mark. Being vulnerable, fighting through it. Sometimes you don't know what the right words to say if you have some type of conflict, but oftentimes you have to kind of fight through all of those things in order to find out what you want to say. And that is really what authenticity is. It's very easy to say, be yourself, just be authentic you. I mean, we see this all over Instagram. Be your authentic self. I mean, I'm on thousands of these pages that tell me this. Rising Woman is one, and the CEO Woman is one. Be yourself. And it is important to be yourself, but it's also very important to find out what you want to actually say. And that's where the authenticity piece comes in. And like, this can be internal, this can be external. When you have to go through the blood, sweat, and tears, that's how you want to do it, not necessarily your way, my way. You know, sometimes I feel like it can be external, shedding a tear or getting upset, letting people see your anger. But also, some people do a lot better checking themselves and saying, no, I want to approach this in a calm manner. So it's really just determining, you know, where your authenticity lies. So this is where I think you're going to find it, your core values. Now, I just threw a couple of my core values there at the bottom: honesty and faith and respect and fun, and grace and kindness. Of course, these are my number ones. But it's important to determine, you know, who you are and what are you going to stand for. Conviction is a very powerful thing, and we are in an election year, so of course, you know, you're going to have a lot of conflicting opinions. You're going to have some sensitivities. We live in a very racially charged environment in some cities, and so it's important for you to determine who you are and what are you going to be. You know, I've chosen those because I've chosen a place of respect and kindness, and that helps me be the better communicator. That helps me choose my words, because when I can rely on my core values, I'm able to launch what my personal PR is going to be, what I'm going to show you, and what you're going to receive. So this is a little tricky because sometimes you don't know what that is, and that's going to be some self-review and thinking about who you are as a person and who you want to be now in the COVID era. This is sometimes a chance to be a whole new person. So if you don't know, obviously I'm a Hammy fan. Is that how they call Hamilton fan? And Aaron Burr had a very different approach to core values. So these are three different cons and pros and cons on values and your core values. And I obviously stole this from Equal Rights Institute because I just think it's so funny that the Aaron Burr approach is he was never willing to take a stand. You know, what will you fall for? He never wanted to do that. And this is just, to me, you know, you've got George Washington, of course, who is, you know, perfect in some people's eyes. And so determining who you're going to be and allowing the world to see who you're going to be tends to factor into it. So if you don't know, I know this is a lot of words, but this is 50 words on the screen. And I'm just going to take a little pause here and let you all really look at these words. Some of these are so powerful and some are quite easy. Poise and inner harmony, fairness, that's always a good one. Determination, and some are very strong. And adventure, these are all 50 core values that you can rely on. And so I thought we could just take a minute and in the chat, I know we don't have a lot of people on the call, but if you just want to throw in a couple words in the chat and just let us know some of the words here that are popping out at you. Maybe you see one right away and you think, yes, absolutely, this is me. I'm just going to take a couple of these, so throw in as many as you want to, and I'm going to go ahead and do something after the session with it. Love is always a good one, of course. They always say lead with love, but when you're pissed off at somebody, you don't want to lead with love. So sometimes I feel like resilience is a better one, or there's authenticity is in our list. So I just take a quick second here and let you guys. And Michelle, you're welcome to join in and put in a word or two.
I threw in balance.
Ooh, balance.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
one.
very difficult to come by.
We've got authenticity, loyalty, meaningful work, and service from Sarah. Loyalty,
I was always,
trustworthiness.
when I saw the list, I always thought beauty was an interesting one, but I think I look at it as different kinds of beauty, not just a physical beauty, but an internal beauty, or sometimes there's beauty in strength. So,
right.
So great. And I will capture all of that after the fact. So thank you so much. And let's just move on to the next screen. So again, a lot of workplace as we know it can be a lot of different things coming at you. And you have to pick and choose what's going to be the most important thing. You have to choose very carefully, because I have found that the person who does complain a lot, who is incredibly verbal, while they may have the right idea and the right conviction, they're going to not be heard after so many issues, I guess. So I don't really agree with the thought of the squeaky wheel gets all the grease. I don't. I think strategically in the workplace, you have a role, and you are there to produce, and you are there to have a job, and you are there to run a business. It isn't a place for having, again, personal dramas or conflict surface. So I think that there are some things that you just leave alone. Obviously, this dog doesn't care. Clearly, somebody needs the bed more important than he does, so he's going to let it go. And again, don't always assume that that people are coming at you with ill intention. A lot of the communication that you're giving off, maybe it's a nonverbal communication, or perhaps it is a verbal communication. I mean, even if it's on a conference call, team call, even if it's a children parent meeting, you know, parent teacher meeting, talking to your doctor, you know, just give everyone the benefit of the doubt, because you don't really know what's happening in their day. You don't really know what their day looks like. And of course you want to stand up for yourself, but sometimes we have to give a pass. We can't always be on top of everyone all the time. And there's lots of people that are out that way. And I always reflect it where if I do see myself getting to the point of, like, say, frustration, I've been on customer service, I've been on hold for a really long time, you know, I lose my patience. And I really do have to say, is this really worth it? Is this something that is just worth a fight? You know, sometimes it isn't, but a lot of times it's about just really using and choosing your words carefully so that it lands in the right spot. And the last thing is, if it doesn't sound right coming out of your mouth, I would not say it. This is one of my biggest challenges, is I really love to tell people what I think. And I have to work every day to zip it, not talk. Because often, if I'm in a heated situation, or even if, let's say, I'm having some wine, you know, anything, loose lips sink ships, everybody needs to just bring it in and really think carefully about how you are communicating, because so much can be misconstrued, and we just have to take a moment and make sure that what we are saying is the proper choice of words. You've thought it out and you have delivered it appropriately. So obviously, you know, I sound like a bit of a hothead, but I think we're all in that position where we want to really tell someone how we feel, but we know if we do it in a way that is not careful and strategic, it's going to land wrong, and you're not really going to further yourself or further the communication or whatever the objective is. So let's move on to your audience. So this is another thing that I think is incredibly important. And now we all hopefully have seen Regina George, right? We know that, you know, the Mean Girls show, we all have a Regina George somewhere in our life, in our universe at some point. And I picked the toddler because there are a lot of crybabies out there. And there's a lot of people who really just want to throw temper tantrums. We also have the Mrs. Blankenship. So I don't know if you remember her, but she was on Mad Men. And she actually is from Karate Kid. That is the mother from Karate Kid. So I don't know if anyone's watching Cobra Kai right now, but I have just recently rediscovered it and I love it. So that tells you what my age is. But this Mrs. Blankenship, you got to Google her because she's hilarious. But she's just an older woman with a different generational set of rules. You know, she looks at things different. She thinks about things different. She can't even see. And then you've got this guy who's just happy, happy, happy. And he's a sales guy. And, you know, he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So as you're having conversations, we absolutely always want to remember, who are we talking to? And as the communicator, when you're chatting, try to use words that fit that person's. Pacing is important. If the person is talking a little slow, talk a little slow. If the room is loud, talk lighter. You know, if somebody is getting agitated, you know, take a moment and read what is going on with that agitation. The toddler is my favorite because I know that there are 50-year-old toddlers out there. And unfortunately, a lot of people have to, you know, yell and scream and get louder and louder and louder and louder. And they think that that's going to help their message. That's not going to help their message at all. But if you're communicating to that person, remember who you are talking to and gear your conversation accordingly. So I love the happy guy because the happy guys always agree with you. And you never know really if they're really agreeing with you or if they just don't like you. But of course, they're going to put that uniform on their face and you're never going to know what they're thinking. So sometimes you're going to, and we're going to touch on this in a few minutes, but sometimes you have to look at other cues and not just the happy face. But the Regina George obviously is somebody who says what you want to hear, but behind your back, she is stabbing you in the back. She's not your friend, Regina George. She has her own agenda, and this could be the mom in, you know, your parents' circle. This could be anybody. This is anybody. There's one of these in every single crowd. So just remember who you're talking to and take note of your message. Social cues. So this is one of the things we all know this. I know this is very basic, but we tend to forget. And, you know, even on the webinars that I have been on, I actually was on 3 this morning, and one that I was on, everybody was looking at the screen and everybody was laughing and using their emojis and everybody. And I'm like, what is happening? This person, whatever they were saying, it was important, but it wasn't that important. And I couldn't really capture what was going on, except that they truly respected the time of the president because the president was on the call. And it kind of took me a minute to realize everybody is focused, everybody is looking, everybody has a happy face, their tones are right. I mean, it was perfect. And then I realized, oh yeah, the CEO is on. And so everybody had their robot going and everyone's like, I am the best. I mean, it was hilarious. And then, you know, you go on another one and, you know, I'm looking at my phone right now. I've got 4 texts. Yep. Bop, bop, bop. I got to order from Panera. I got to get this delivered. Oh my God, where's my Amazon package? You know, everybody's doing things. So in the Zoom world, you are picking up on social cues. You are looking at facial expressions. If you're a leader, like I was at Merritt's, I absolutely wanted full engagement in our team meetings. And I would look at the videos and I would check in. And if I kept seeing somebody stray, I shifted gears and I maybe changed my topic. Maybe I advanced a slide. Maybe I called on them. Maybe I threw a question in the chat box. but checking out all of the social cues. You can continue to do that on Zoom. It's hard, of course, but anybody who is fully engaged in the process is looking, they are paying attention, they're adding things into the chat box. And as a participant yourself, it might be great for you to now notice that, you know, if I'm on a Zoom, I'm going to respond. I'm going to do the emojis. I'm going to just give that person the respect of some feedback so they know that I am listening. Now, in person, this is the most important thing in communication. Everybody knows the hand cross or the touching of the face or the fiddling. Everybody knows that there are tells when people are talking. And I go off facial expressions a lot more. I look at a lot of eye contact. I did major in communications, and I've done a lot of studies on ethos, logos, pathos. And I think it is so important when you are remembering your audience, when you've chosen what you want to say, when you have the right words, and you've done all this preparation, and you're ready to have a conversation, a meaningful conversation, a job interview, any of this. You get into social cues and you get into facial expressions, into nonverbals, you know right then and there that your communication style or your word choice or your tone, something might have thrown that person off. And so that's when you kind of have to do the pivot, as they say, and just switch gears and use the different words and try to reach the person through other means. So absolutely, looking at social cues is number one in my book. You can do all that other stuff. You can choose your words carefully. You can choose your convictions, but anything you have to say to anybody, landing is the most important thing, and receiving the information. So these are all things that people are receiving. I have an ex-husband. I'll tell you one thing. I know exactly what he is thinking. He gives me a snarl, and I could put that on a poster and sell it. It's crazy. I know when he doesn't like what I have to say. And we have 99.9% of the time, we have great conversations. But every now and then he gives me that, and that crinkly look. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Back off, Nance, back off. You know, whoop, whoop, all the alarms go off. He's going to blow, you know, anything. This is where I see that I have to shift my conversation, maybe pick another time, change gears, whatever I need to do, because I want my message heard. I want to be listened to. I want to be heard. And so I have to take the responsibility to get myself heard. And these are just some of those tactics. So I am going to conclude here. I know we are moving very quickly through a topic that you could talk about all day long, but I just hope that there are some things, if anyone wanted to share something funny or some kind of weird thing that's happened with COVID or miscommunications, let me know. I'm gonna go offline in a little bit, but I will have my email up. But if we wanted to talk about anything, again, this is a kind of like a one-way conversation today. We just don't have a ton of time, but just in a recap situation, I would love to talk with you a little bit about if there's something that you want to kind of help navigate through a difficult conversation. I'm happy to help you in any way we can. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. And my lovely temporary employer, Visit Alexandria, that is my email address for anybody who wants to chat with me a little bit later. And thank you guys so much for your time today. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, we do have time for maybe one question if anyone has one. I'll leave it open for a little bit, but if not, we do have a 5:30 happy hour session going on in the main room. If anyone is interested, that's in about 10 minutes or so.
Great. Thank you, Michelle, so
All right,
much. And
thank
thank you
you.
all for joining.